So I looked for a location, looking to see how the times of the events actually were located in the heavens above.
Okay.
What star was overhead at that point, and so on and so on. And by, in effect, looking to see if there were any great circle links between those timings, that would perhaps indicate a position where the things were coming, the direction the things had approached in. I should say that this exercise led me to believe that there were two favoured orbital, when I say orbit, two favoured paths, injection paths and what's the word, return paths into space, which were fixed in space, and that was the first sort of discovery. Really.
Right, and so where were they coming from then? What was?
I don't know. They were coming from two orientations.
Okay.
And the fact is that orientation was very much a circle in space, if you like, where they might have anywhere in that area, on that circle, on the circumference of that circle, they might have been coming from.
Right. Okay.
So it didn't define a particular place in space they were coming from. Okay. It was defining the angle that they would be approaching the Earth at. Right. There were two orientations in space that were favoured, and two others that were favoured in the way that they were linked to the sun, to the position of the sun among the stars during the course of a year. And they were linked to the sunset and sunrise terminators on the Earth. Right. Specific points on the Earth, on the terminator.
So this is a point on the Earth which is basically between night and day. So it's it's like a black line going around the Earth.
That's where the terminator is. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
And their arrival paths seem to be at those points. Is that?
Yes. One of the paths would be orientated by crossing over the meridian, the celestial meridian that crossed that point on the Earth's surface.
And would that suggest that they're coming from the sun, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be fair to say that, in fact, I deduced from that they were probably coming, in that circumstance, coming from the solar system.
Right.
Either from the sun or toward the sun.
Right, okay.
But not directly towards the sun, except at the equinoxes, because of the tilt of the Earth affecting the terminator, the slope of the terminator on the equator, on the globe. Now, if we make the assumption that even though they're coming from space, they're actually coming in via the solar system, in the plane of the solar system, then we get some more rather interesting things developing in the picture.
Okay.
There's a possibility that temporary bases, anyway, if not permanent, are set up from time to time in the solar system to facilitate this sort of rapid examination of the Earth. And it could well be that, and there are indications, that planets and comets sometimes are indicators of the direction they'll be moving from or going back to.
Okay.
It's like markers in the sky, as if they're sort of using these planets in the solar system as navigational markers.
So you actually have noticed that activity along these paths increases when planets are in certain alignments.
That's my impression, that there is you can sort of almost tell which of the paths might be used if you find there is a planetary alignment of some sort with that particular path, where that path intersects the plane of the solar system.
Okay, and from this research, if I then give you a point on the Earth, you can produce a timing graph. Can you explain the timing graph, Roy, and what that represents?
A timing graph is represents a time scale up here on this side from you're looking.
Which is a 24-hour...
A 24-hour time scale, but it's doubled actually for the computation process. And the days of the year here. And those days, the graph is split up into 3-day intervals actually across there. That's the typical timing graph. Now what the program does, the programs I've now produced, is they look to see if any of the timing associated with any of those orientations on a particular latitude corresponds to the predicted one.
So this means that the point on the graph is when the orbital path passes overhead. Is that what I'm saying? Is that correct? So that it's the path of that orbit is directly overhead of that point.
Particular path. I think.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily. It doesn't necessarily mean that one of these hypothetical motherships is actually passing over. It just says that its orbit,
a probability.
Its path is passing over head. That's what the graph is saying.
Yes, and that if they are in the mood to investigate,
if they're currently on that path, then you may get a sighting.
Might get a sighting in the atmosphere. One of their probes.
And on the graph, generally, for any one day, if I select my particular day from your graph and look along that, I might get. There may be, if there are 6 lines on that particular chart, that means that there's 6 different times during that day that the path or the potential path crosses over my point on the Earth.
Might cross over. It's available to, if they use
the route passes over, but not necessarily a craft. So the time to look out of your window is at those, you set your alarm clock for those times.
Well, yes, and if, as I said earlier, there are actually usually more than 6 on a graph, and the orientation of the paths relative to the planets and so on in the solar system will indicate which of those, to some extent, which of those lines are going to be more applicable on that occasion.
Right.
Because they're going to be more inclined to use those.
Okay. And there are quite a lot of people who you've actually given these timing graphs to who go out and then watch the sky at their particular location on the Earth. And tell me what kind of results you've had from that. Anyway.
Well, amazing, really. I mean, the number of hits this system has produced from people who are watching, and also checking out some very famous cases against the appropriate graph for that area. It just amazed me how good this system is, and I still can't explain it. I can't explain why this 65.45 minutes, is significant. All I can say is it's producing results. It's a provisional theory. It's a provisional in the sense that I can't explain.
Yeah, because of course one of the things that you can do, you just touched on it there, is that you can go back in time as long as you know the exact time of the particular sighting. So Rendlesham Forest, whatever, you can go back and check to see whether there was indeed an orbital path passing over.
Just look to see if the path running over that path, or close to that point rather, could have produced the timing that it was recorded. And the Rendlesham Forest events are remarkable. The correlation with these predictions just have to be seen to believe.
And these craft are believed to be responsible for crop circles and possibly human abduction as well. And you have managed to, where you have been able to find out the precise time that a crop circles appeared or even an abductions took place, you've then actually used that data as well to then try and find out whether it coincides with an orbital path. And can you elaborate?
And that is another remarkable, both of them are remarkable findings, because I mean, this is all experimental. I don't expect things to line up. I just look to see if they do. And I found that of the close encounters, the CE4s that I was asked to
just explain what a CE4 is.
These are the ones where people lose, sea aircraft, at close quarters, lose a period of time in their lives and may suddenly find themselves without the craft, but with a lost hour or something like that.
Alan Godfrey, for example, would be one example of that.
Who's that?
Alan Godfrey, PC
Yes,
Alan Godfrey.
Right.
That was an example of that.
Yes, indeed. And I looked into some of these in Britain initially to see if they did tie up. And the remarkable thing, and I've proved it, I've got some of these things in my book which hasn't been published yet, but it's also, some of these are shown in the video series, parts 1, 2 and 3 of We Are Definitely Not Alone. The correlation was absolutely spot on. And you could actually say this was the time when the event began, and there it was on a line. And this is the time when it finished. And then it was again on another line, the next adjacent line in the series. You know.
Okay.
So the weight of proof is tremendous, but the big puzzle is how did they do it? You know.
And I looked at the maps that you did in 1967 and 73 of Britain. Now, just correct me if I'm wrong here. I would have thought that from your model, every point on the Earth would have just as many orbital paths going over it as any other point, unless they're on the North Pole, because I know that some of the paths don't cover the poles.
No, exactly, that's right.
So why is it then that on that map, all of the cases seem to be up the west side of Britain, up towards the edge of Wales and Manchester, up that, there seems to be clusters there. Is that because they're just interested in those particular parts of Britain?
Because there are just as many on the east side.
There's just as many. There's just as many paths, right?
In Kent and places like that, in the London area, and Essex and so on. Yes, I picked up the similar kind of things from there.
So what you're saying is that it doesn't. These paths, they don't say, well, there's going to be a cluster there or a cluster. They just tell you when it's likely to happen. They're not saying that it means that there'll be a whole load in Birmingham, but there's no paths going over London. It doesn't work like that. If they wanted to go to London, then there's a route that they can choose. If they want to go to Newcastle, there's a route they can choose.
Right.
And they just, for some other reason, which your model doesn't explain, why they're going to certain points on the Earth. You know, perhaps they, I don't know, re-abducting certain people.
I think it's to do with the initial study, where I was looking to see the sites they favoured. Remember, in Britain.
Yeah.
So because they're looking for the similar kind of things elsewhere in the world, not just in Britain.
Okay.
And when it comes to the abduction situation, I think it's seen it clear. These tended to happen actually around the late 70s and early 80s in Britain anyway. I haven't heard of many since. And that was a pattern in the world as well, I think. And it's as if they, at that point, allocated time to picking up people and examining them and to find out how they were getting on, basically, and perhaps even indoctrinating them. There is indication that some people were being brainwashed to some degree into believing certain things. Sometimes giving false information, misleading information, and sometimes it did seem to be a genuine attempt to increase their understanding of what was going on.
Something that was quite interesting that you said, Roy, you said that if something was in a 65-minute orbit around the Earth, it would need to produce some kind of acceleration towards the Earth in order to hold it in orbit, otherwise it would just fly out of orbit if it didn't have that. Now, I'm aware of certain anti-gravity technology that people have allegedly seen, and the Americans have allegedly back-engineered UFO craft that contain anti-gravity technology. If they had an anti-gravity, or let's say a gravity generation device on their craft that could accelerate it towards the Earth, and you were on one of these motherships, just explain what it would be like to be on that mothership in this super orbit, as it's called. Where would the Earth be?
Well, I mean, the actual, I don't know anything about this anti-gravity. I mean, flying is anti-gravity, wings are anti-gravity devices. And I don't think that anti-gravity, in the sense that in some way modifying gravity, changing the gravitational field, is anywhere within our scope.